So on the bench here we have a rather inconspicuous looking UK plug. On the other end of it there is an IEC C7 connector, which is normally used to power low power devices such as like transformers, some laptop power supplies, like boombox stereos, CD players, all different types of stuff, TVs, low current devices. And all looks well from a distance. There's not the usual alarm bells with these dodgy flexes. There's no sleeving on the earth pin. Live and neutral pins are sleeved. You see this, you may think, yeah, well, that's a safety marking of some point. But when you turn the plug around and you have a closer look, alarm bells start to ring, because as you can see here it says at the bottom 13 amps 250 volts. Now I am under my assumptions. I've always assumed that molded plugs, they tend to have the rating of the flex because you can't rewire them. So say for example this plug here, which is just a rewirable one, it'll say 13 amps because the BS1363 standard is for 13 amps. Whereas something like this is already wired and the flex on it is 0.75. So here we have a molded connect plug, and you can see here that it very clearly says 3 amps 250 volts, and that also has a 0.75 flex on it, just like this one. So there's no way in hell that 0.75 flex can handle 13 amps. Well, who even knows whether this flex is genuine? With the state of this plug, and when we get to the other end of the lead, alarm bells have already been raised. So I do not suspect this cable is genuine. I think this flex is probably copper-clad aluminium or very undersized copper. So if we zoom back into the plug, good sign is there is a fuse, but there's nowhere does it say BS1363, or there's nothing, there's no markings on it at all, just 13 amps 250 volts, live, neutral and earth and fused. So alarm bells are ringing there, but because if you look on this plug here, there's all different types of marking. You've got your BS, it should at least have your BS, if they were trying to replicate or sell a product in the UK, they should at least have it saying BS1363, you would think. And if you look, you have this, which is called the kite mark. This has a kite mark, but is a counterfeit kite mark, because when you have a kite mark, you also have a license number, which it says right here. This one says KM69196, which this is a completely genuine plug. Where this one doesn't, it just has the kite mark, so it's clearly just been printed on there when it does not comply to this standard. Now we'll take a look at the flex here. So you can see that it does claim to be 2-core 0.75. As we move along, just various markings. Now that looks like a brand name to me, and that name does ring a bell, but I cannot really find anything on Google other than like an Alibaba listing or something. So the other end of this cable, there is the IEC C7 connector, which is where this cable really starts to show its flaws, because that is exposed metal. I can very, very, very easily touch that. Now if I bring up into shot a proper C7, you can see the substantial size difference. This is very small and feels very, very flimsy, whereas this feels relatively solid. And if I zoom in again, you can barely see the metal. It's very recessed, so I cannot get my fingers in there at all. You'd have to have very small fingers to get into there, whereas here you can just poke around, shove all sorts of things in, like this screwdriver for example. We don't even need a screwdriver to get in, I can get my fingers in there. So yeah, It's very, very dodgy and dubious. What the bit of backstory to this cable is, it came with we had a quite expensive custom fireplace designed and manufactured by a regional company, and they came and supplied this cable with some LED strips that were around the actual fireplace unit itself, and I didn't really think anything of it other than they were asking me for an extension lead to plug it in. So I was like, are you not going to wire it properly? So, because it just had 2 plugs. The Fire was a 2 kilowatt unit, and they provided us a computer type IEC cable, and it had a 0.75 flex and a 13 amp fuse. Now, 2 kilowatt going through 0.75 doesn't sit right with me at all. So I seen that, and then I was like, right, I'm going to check the other power supply. And yeah, then I spotted this. I didn't think really anything of it, but I just thought, you know what, I'm going to swap it anyway. I put it to the side, and then a few days later, I thought, I'm going to have a look at that. And then I seen that, and I was like, oh, I'm very glad that I retired this. I swapped it with just a standard proper one, fused down to 3 amps, and I swapped the other IEC cable with a proper one with a properly sized flex, which I was a bit confused why a fire of that wattage came with a IEC style connector. You'd think it would just have a connector block inside that you attached bare wire to it or twin and earth. So yeah, that is what I found with this plug. Now I've sent this device this flex to, I'm going to send it to YouTuber John Ward to see what he will do with it. Hopefully he will put some current through it and see whether it is genuine or not, because then we will really know how dangerous this device was. So thanks for watching this video on this plug. It's the first one of this type that I've ever done, but I wanted to get it out there. So thanks for watching. Goodbye.